Hi folks, you're with Tassus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about how critical race theory or race hustling, gender hustling, climate change hustling, transgender hustling, how this has been distributed into all the other subjects in the school or the college. So they can claim as a standalone subject, well, we don't teach CRT. Don't know what you're talking about. What's that? CRT? What is it? I don't know what that is. So they can claim that, but in fact, they've distributed into every other subject. So the essential, or the entire sort of narrative and dialogue of critical race theory is now in every subject. So I just want to go back a few years to there was a university that was getting a lot of sort of pushback and a lot of complaints about all the LGBTQ courses, how radical their gender studies program was. It was a real fanatical hate men and all this sort of thing program, and their sociology section or department at this university was shot through with the most radical, lesbian, hate all men, hate the family activists. So they had to, and they're getting some pushback from not only, there were students, parents that were paying the students' bills. Some of the international students were complaining, saying, "Hey, I came here to get an education, not to get all this Marxist feminist nonsense pushed at me." And there were some politicians complaining, and so the school, or the college rather, decided that they had to do something, but they weren't prepared to give up their ideology. Their ideology had to stay intact. They had to go this, anti-male, anti-family, anti-straight, and all. They had to stay with all the race hustling and gender hustling, and social division type issues. They weren't prepared to give up any of that at all. But they made an announcement, and I know one of the lecturers there, so I kind of had the inside story. They made the announcement: we have disbanded the gender studies department. So we've listened to the people, and we've disbanded the gender studies department. So get off our back, stop complaining, get out of our face. All you damn fascist Nazi, Hitler's got what you wanted. And so that's it. But in fact, they hadn't. It was disingenuous in the extreme. And just as an example, I was shown some. So this was a course on, this was a Master of Business Administration course. So I was given a copy of a paper from there that had in every, you had an option of the essays for this particular assignment for the program. You had an option of essays, but every essay, no matter what it was about, and you must have 100 words or more. You must have so many words, or part of your essay must address the issues of how Black women are oppressed and have been oppressed by the colonial system, and how capitalism causes suffering for Black women and LGBTQ and trans people. So they've got this requirement. It's not an option where you can do an essay on that if you want. It is a requirement. It is part of the actual course, and that essay, there's direct question. Now, the question, of course, is prejudicial in the extreme. It doesn't say, well, as a student, as a free-thinking student, what do you think? Are women oppressed, or are Black people oppressed, or are lesbians oppressed, or if so, where and by? You're not required to actually research it and come up. That they're giving you, this is the outcome you will produce. Women are oppressed by white people. White people are the oppressors. These are the victims. This is the framework of your essay. So you must come up with reasons to prove and justify and support the assertion that all white people are racist fucking Nazis. You must come to that conclusion. And the framework of the essay, or this assignment, which included the essay as a central part of it, was that you had to produce that. And you have to, and then there were various sort of guidance notes that were in there. Like you have to, part of it was you form a working group with like 4 people have to be in the working group. The working group itself must be diverse. It can't be all white. It can't be all male. You can have all female and all black. You just can't have all white and all male, or all straight for that matter. So, and you have to then form a working group that demonstrates the evils and wickedness of slavery and what white people have done, and so on. So, and you can only do the transatlantic slavery. You can't say, well, as a matter of fact, why don't we do the slavery in Africa where black tribes enslaved each other? And it's no. It's only white people can be bad. So the restrictions on the course was I thought mind-boggling. Now remember, these are university students, so you would think you would offer a free-ranging option of, here's a question, address the question as you think is best. But there should be rigor insofar as there has to be supporting evidence and supporting texts and supporting quotes. A rigorous footnoted essay. But no, they're told you will produce an outcome that says white people are bad. You will produce an outcome that says black lesbians are oppressed, and you will produce an outcome that says racism is rampant in our society, and that those were the frame. So in fact, what they've done is they just distributed the gender studies itself, being very CRT, critical race theory. They've just distributed that amongst all courses. Now, there's some of the STEM courses don't seem to be fully captured by this, but pretty much everything, even accounting, things you say, what, accounting has got this in it? You got to be kidding me. But business, communications, psychology, anything to do with the medical field, all this, it completely shot through. Human resources, special diversity and inclusion type courses. All of this is absolutely shot through with this. Now, on top of that, and this is the bit where you see the link between the education department and the NGOs, and how the NGOs are protected by Western governments, who are in turn controlled by the globalists. So you've got this thing where they're saying for research, go and work for, or go as a volunteer for the following NGOs that are super active in propaganda pushing on these issues. So they can further radicalize the students just by doing this, and they also imply. I didn't like this, really got up my nose here, but they also imply that you can go and meet a lot of people who are like-minded, make friends, and maybe even sort of, it's phrased very obliquely here, but the implication was you might even be able to get laid and meet sexual partners there and that sort of thing, which I it's meant to be a study paper and an essay and an assignment. But it takes me back actually to the Spanish Civil War, where when they were trying to recruit volunteers, especially to provide medical care and various things like that, they particularly pitching at women for the Spanish Civil War, and the communist side. The communist side was particularly looking for volunteers, and they targeted young English girls and or young women, young English women. For some reason, they thought that was the easiest and juiciest target for their propaganda. So they had this propaganda campaign going around England that you've never been fucked till you've been fucked by a communist, and this was meant to. And it must have worked, because lots of young English girls, were flocking to Spain to the Civil War, hoping to get fucked by communists, no doubt. So, but anyway, that's the thing about how they've distributed the courses, or distributed the CRT and the gender studies and the radical race hustling and all that sort of stuff. They've distributed that throughout all other courses, again with just a very, very small amount of STEM subjects that seem to have escaped that. And even now those seem to have been brought in. And also something else that they do, which I think is outrageous. If you go and attend say a climate change street march or something like that, and it happens to be on the day of an exam, or you can say, well, I didn't do my assignment. I didn't hand my assignment in because I was too busy attending climate change street marches. then it's pretty much directly said that you'll still get a pass. Just make sure that your lecturer knows about the good moral work you're doing, and we'll give you a pass anyway because you're such a good virtuous person by attending these fucking street marches. So the dispensations and the pass-throughs and the free pass marks, the good grades, this sort of thing, are all given to people that demonstrate their race hustler and gender hustler Marxist type credentials. Those things are not afforded, of course, to anyone else. You have to go along with that. And if you want to pass, or you want to get a good pass, distinction or something like that, you want to be summa cum laude or something, you better go on a lot of street marches, otherwise they're not going to pass you through. But this is how particularly the younger people, this is how they radicalize them. Remember, they're waving a lot of low IQ people into the universities now who come from broken homes and this sort of thing, and they're already adrift, if you like, in society. And of course, this is something that gives them a feeling of a perverted, that may be, a sense of purpose. But when you hear that they've and I noticed in Florida recently, there's Governor Ron DeSantis is putting up some legislation to do with cutting back or stopping the march of CRT in the Florida education system. Well overdue, and I've noticed some of the pushbacks. Hey, we don't do CRT. There's no CRT here. That's all just a Nazi conspiracy. But really, what they've done again is distribute modules of CRT throughout the entire education system, training teachers in how to slip CRT and race hustling into every subject, be it mathematics at high school or English or geography or history, anything, any subject, to slip it in there and have special classes. I've seen sort of the embryo of that. I remember in high school there was the teachers are pretty good. I look back now and you see there's quite a few left-leaning teachers, but they didn't push it in the class. I remember one teacher who a couple of years out of high school, I bumped into him somewhere, and I'd always got on pretty well with him, and kind of we had a quick cup of coffee or something, had a chat about things, and he kind of treated me in a paternalistic kind of way, and so I was talking to him about it, and he was a radical leftist. He was about as close to a communist as you could get, and I had no idea. And now, outside of high school, he was obviously much more relaxed about declaring his views. But I noticed I never would have picked it up in his class. So the teachers, I'm sure some didn't, but certainly the teachers I came across pretty much kept their politics out of the classroom. A couple of slip-ups, a couple of statements. With hindsight, I look back and say, hey, that guy's a screaming commie, or she was a screaming commie. But I remember the coming back, thinking about it, what was called the library teacher at the time. She was about as fucking commie as you could get. But again, she showed a lot of restraint in pushing those views on the students. So that's all changed now. Of course, they're gagging to push their politics and their race hustling and everything onto the students. So it's different. But I think it was the final year of high school. They set up a class that was like a sort of to debate politics and that sort of thing. And but it was an optional class. Nobody was forced to do it. And some kids turned up, and and there were people turning up who had strange views. I remember there was one commie guy. He had these real off the wall commie folks, and so he was always talking about we in the West have no liberties, and the only place where they have liberties is in Russia, and so he was pushing all this ridiculous propaganda. But it was interesting that you could optionally go to those sort of classes, but now those sort of classes are mandatory in high school and college, and there's a vast infrastructure that encourages that sort of activism and rewards it with prestigious college degrees. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.